Grand Theft Auto, the Definitive Edition, was one of the worst game releases I have ever seen. Countless bugs and glitches, terrible frame rate issues, and it was actually worse looking than the original 3. But don't get me wrong, there have been really bad releases before, but the thing with this is these games are just so important and so loved. GTA 3 was one of the most revolutionary games of all time, in my opinion. You can't half-ass something like this, and they did. So no, it was definitely not worth buying back in 2021. But in this video, I want to answer the question, is GTA Definitive Edition worth buying in 2024? Does it hold up at all? Let's talk about it. Just a little disclaimer, I finished Grand Theft Auto San Andreas on my iPad. My opinion is going to be completely based on my experience. I want to quickly run over the main problems that this game had at launch and what the community are really complaining about. The lack of fog and render distance. In the original games, the map was covered in fog. This was kind of used to trick the player into thinking that the map was way bigger than it was. It also helped with rendering and saving memory. So let's just say the player is committing mass murder in Los Santos, the other cities aren't rendered in because they don't need it. In the Definitive Edition, you can clearly see everything if you fly high enough. Honestly, that completely tricked me, man. I was positive that this game was gigantic back in the day, but in all reality, it's not really that big. Graphic issues. This is probably the most blatant problem they had at launch. The character models were disgusting, man. Everything was off, from the character models to the facial expressions. The most notable to me was Big Smoke. He plays a pretty big role in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and not once did I see his face move at all. And he's in this game a lot, and I think we all remember how bad Denise was in the trailer. Other graphical issues are problems with the lights, tattoos not showing properly, cars just falling off the face of the earth randomly. And believe it or not, Rockstar actually added a new feature where when it rains, you can't play the game at all. You instantly go blind, and that's the end of it. There are hundreds of these, but these are the main ones. Frame rate was also a big problem. I can vouch for that myself. The game never ran smoothly for me. It worked fine on what seemed like 30 FPS, but all of a sudden it was like watching a freaking PowerPoint presentation. Standing perfectly still was fine, but the second I moved, the frame would drop. I couldn't even walk, man. Never mind driving a freaking car. It was that bad. The game constantly crashed as well. These were all reported on day one, by the way. One weird and really lazy feature that the game had was that all the menus had the exact same sound. I can't tell you how shocked I was to boot up Grand Theft Auto Vice City and then hear the Grand Theft Auto San Andreas sound effect. It was crazy. Getting rid of the Vice City menu sound was criminal. So, are these problems still here in 2024 is the question. I'm happy to say that I didn't experience any one of these while playing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas on my iPad. It's really interesting actually how they fixed the render distance. They actually gave us an option in the settings to turn off the fog, turn on the fog, and also to select whatever render distance you want. I never touched it personally. I always thought it was quite cool to see Mount Chiliad from everywhere. Character models were changed to look like the originals. It looks like they added more facial features, and I think that fixed the problem. Throughout my entire gameplay, I didn't experience any frame rate as well, which is brilliant. It actually took me a while to get used to it. I was constantly anticipating lag from when I played it back in 2021. Now, I'm not giving him credit here. No game in this day and age should be releasing with this many frame rate issues. That's like gaming 101. Frame rate is very, very important, but it's fixed now. Of course, the main menu sound was fixed. It probably took them around 5 seconds. I think that was just pure laziness on their part. I'm guessing they thought no one would care or no one would notice, but of course they're wrong. The Vice City sound effects are unbelievable, man, alright? I can play the game really smoothly, and I can confidently say that it looks really good. Still, it's not perfect. Like I mentioned before, Big Smoke's facial features were never really fixed, and you do spend a lot of time with them in the game. Some buildings in the game really struggle to load. If I'm driving really quickly towards a building, sometimes it doesn't load up properly. It just looks like one big blob is on the map. It happened a lot when I spent a lot of time in the desert, and then I'd kind of make my way back to Las Venturas, and all like the billboards and shit were literally just colorful blobs. But it only happened rarely. Okay, so we're talking a lot about the bad stuff of the game, which is fair enough. Look, it's been like this for years, but I actually want to start talking about what they did good. First off, they look really good, man. they look really, really good now. As we know, they didn't always look good. They actually made these changes when they were releasing them on the iOS devices. Like, I remember playing Grand Theft Auto Vice City on my iPad and thinking, man, this looks better than my PlayStation 5. I must be going mad or something. But it was true. They did, in fact, fix it even more. And let me just remind you real quick, this is how the game should have released. I'm not blowing smoke up their asses now. This all should have been done. But I'm just saying, in 2024, it is actually a really nice game to look at, considering these came out 20 plus years ago. The Definitive Edition also included its own features. The most notable would be the GPS on the map and the weapon wheel. And I'm telling you, the waypoints have changed the way I've played Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. I remember back in the day just how frustrating it was to navigate around the Baco Beyond area of the map. There's a pretty big portion of the game where you're kind of driving around aimlessly in the forest area, and I was always trying to get to the waypoint as quick as I could. But doing that, I always ended up in a river or something like that. There's a massive river that cuts through the forest, and every time I went driving, or every time I tried to take a shortcut, I would end up in that river without any question. It just makes life so much easier, man. I've seen a lot of people complaining about the waypoint being like, you know, it's taking me the wrong way or whatever. I never had any issue with it whatsoever. The weapon wheel was also a great feature. Personally, I didn't use it too much, but I do like the fact that if you want to change to a certain gun, you can, without having to swipe through it a number of times. Along with the weapon wheel, they also gave us the radio wheel. And being honest with you, I think I use this one the most. Instead of having to flick through the shit radio stations, you can kind of just pick whichever one you want. I know we're talking about Grand Theft Auto San Andreas here, but I mainly use this on Vice City. Every time I turn on the radio station, it needs to be on Flash FM, alright? Restarting missions is also a brilliant feature. Honestly, I can only imagine how bad Grand Theft Auto San Andreas was on the PlayStation 2. So you're telling me, if I die during a mission, I first of all lose all my weapons, second of all, I lose all of my progress, and third of all, it sends you back to the nearest freaking hospital, man. And there's nothing worse being sent back to the hospital in the desert area. It was just so far away from everything. Thankfully, the game now sets checkpoints for you. So instead of dying and having to go all the way back, you can just go back to a save state. It's a lifesaver. I see a lot of people complaining about it. I don't get it, man. It just makes the game so much more enjoyable. So yes, I had a fantastic time playing through Grand Theft Auto San Andreas on my iPad. Is it worth buying though? In my opinion, absolutely. Not only can you play it on a console, but you can also play it anywhere you want on the iOS or on the Switch. But personally, I wouldn't recommend the Switch. I think it never works properly on the Switch. But it works flawlessly on an iPad or an iPhone or whatever. And that's mostly how I play these games now. I mentioned this in my other Grand Theft Auto Definitive Edition video. It's on Netflix and it's really freaking cheap. If you have a Netflix account, the 3 games are basically free, man. Now, I know some of you might be saying €11 a month, that's not good enough. Listen, I know these games are 20 plus years old, but €11 a month for Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City and San Andreas, it's a fucking bargain, alright? If you don't want to buy it on Netflix, you can also just buy the games properly. I just did a quick search and you can buy it anywhere from under €30. You are going to get hours upon hours upon hours of fun. For €30, that's definitely worth it. If you've never played the original trilogy, I recommend you just play the Definitive Edition. Now, some people are going to argue about that. Some people will tell you that the originals are way better. The only thing I'll say about the original games is the atmosphere. It's just something the Definitive Edition couldn't capture. But keep it in mind, you will be playing a 20-year-old game. Graphics probably won't be good. And the biggest one, restarting. If you get to the end of a mission and you die, you're going all the way back. It's worse than going all the way back. You're going all the way back to the hospital. You lose money and you lose all your guns. It's extremely frustrating. Especially in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. I can't tell you how many times I died on the final mission, and that's with restarting. If I didn't have restarting, I would have gave up a long time ago. But some people vouch by it. I don't get it. I think you should just play the Definitive Edition. That's my 2 cents. Sorry I had to make another video on this. I just think it gets a lot of unfair criticism. I think it's well worth it now, and I think everyone should give it a try. Once again, I have to say this. I'm not blowing smoke up their asses. It's unacceptable to only have these games fixed 3 years in advance. It's not good enough, man. But you are able to play them now, and they are worth it right now. Don't get me wrong, if they were still €70, this wouldn't be. but they are extremely cheap. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I really hope you enjoyed. Please like, subscribe. Have a good day. Goodbye.